Okay, Johnny, here we go. Welcome into another episode of Flourish FM. In today's episode, we chatted with Krista Stryker. Krista is an author, she's an entrepreneur, and she's a coach that focuses really on both mental fitness and physical fitness, but really the synergy between those two. She's got a wonderful app by the name of 12-Minute Athlete, which helps you find short, simple, joyful, kind of consistent ways to optimize your physical health, but to build mental health and mental fitness skills along the way as well. And all of this is really oriented towards helping people tap into kind of their untapped or hidden potential. So very much in line with flourishing. Johnny, what were some of the highlights of today's conversation for you?
Yeah, I love this. There were two particular highlights for me. The first was Krista pointing out the significant benefits for our mental health and our cognition and our mental performance of physical exercise and improving our physical well-being. There's growing research in this area. And the second was the stack of practical advice she gave on how to best maintain and build your physical fitness, tapping into some really important things like your intrinsic motivation, what you're passionate about doing, not just doing the thing you don't like doing and you've tried repeatedly, like as much you don't like running or you don't like doing strength training, you just keep grinding away. Find what you love doing. And she gave some great advice for how you could do that by journaling. For example, journaling before and after workouts about how you feel and tapping into the kind of things you love doing as a way to maintain motivation and consistency. How about you?
Ditto to all of that. To me, succinctly put, I think she covers the why, the what, and the how of physical fitness and its impact on vitality, well-being, success, all these sorts of things related to flourishing. So it's a good conversation. Here it is with Krista Stryker, the 12-Minute Athlete. We hope you enjoy. Good morning, Krista. Welcome to Flourish FM.
Thank you so much for having me. It's awesome to be here.
It's our pleasure to have you here. Looking forward to the conversation today. At this point, our audience will have sort of heard your bio and have a little bit of a sense of who you are and what you do. But I thought we'd kind of open up by just digging into that a little bit more deeply. I think a lot of sort of, let's call it maybe your social, media persona and professional persona, 12-Minute Athlete sounds very physical, but you also clearly in your training and sort of the work you do, I think incorporate a lot of what you might call, psychological or psychosocial or mental, whatever you want to term it. So just tell us a little bit more. How would you describe what you do? And then I'm going to want to hear a little bit more about why you do it.
Sure. From the very beginning, physical fitness was very mental for me. Most of you probably don't know my background, but I didn't really get into fitness until after college. So before that, I really wasn't athletic at all, although I played a couple of high school sports. And fitness was like my first kind of hint that I might be able to cultivate a growth mindset around something. Before that, I had this belief, Carol Dweck's mindset wasn't out yet. I hadn't read anything about it. I really had this belief, though, that the talents and abilities I had, those were it. Like, I'm 22 and, this is as good as it's going to get for me. And there was a taste of fitness showed me that I actually could work towards something and get better at it. And that was it seems so simple thinking about it now, but it really just opened up the world for me. And ever since, I really have been trying to always push myself and figure out ways I can grow. And physical fitness is it's such a cool kind of testing ground for mental skills because, you take something like a push-up. Like, I never could do a push-up when I was growing up. I had like super weak little arms and, zero upper body strength. And I worked at it. I figured out the steps, which sometimes we think we need to go from like 0 to 100, but no, there are actual little steps to get there. And I was able to do it. And that was just the coolest thing in the world to me. It gave me so much confidence. And that's really the reason that I started my fitness brand, 12-Minute Athlete, because I was so excited about this possible path to for myself to grow, but also to help other people grow. And, we all know that when we accomplish something in one kind of area of our life, it gives us confidence to try things in other areas. So that was just really the tip of the iceberg for me, fitness.
Wow.
It's a pathway, right? Pathway to what?
Pathway to our potential. I'm all really my whole life I've been about like pursuing potential and helping other people pursue theirs. And I don't think it's ever capped. I think we can always be growing. But yeah, to me, it's just such a tangible way to do these things and to test these skills and, to build all of the psychological qualities that we all want, mental toughness and resilience and grit and all that good stuff. So it's just such a cool testing ground.
Right. Johnny?
So yeah, how did you come across growth mindset?
The book itself, or
right. Well, I'm just wondering how this big turning point took. It sounds like a paradigm shift in your life.
Yeah, it was definitely a paradigm shift. I will say that I started to kind of live it before I knew it was a thing. So through fitness, I was like, okay, this could be a thing. I could potentially work hard and get better at these things that I thought I was just terrible at. And I don't remember how I came across it, but in my mid-20s reading mindset, and it was just like, it put words to these things that I had been experiencing. And I was just like, I told everyone I knew about it. It was like the most exciting thing.
Right.
And it's really
so it was actually the book or the TED Talk. It wasn't like, I'm imagining like some coach you had or some teacher you had kind of told you that Krista,
always
you can.
Books.
It was the books, right?
Yeah, always books. I wish I had more coaches like that. Now I look back at my life and I look at other kids' lives and the coaches and the teachers, if they don't help kids kind of cultivate that, it stalls them and like for years and years. Again, with fitness, did you guys ever take well, you probably didn't in the UK, but in the US, we had like the physical fitness or the presidential physical fitness test, right? Sure. I failed every single thing, like every year. And I never had one coach tell me like, hey, you could get better at this thing if you actually like work toward it and try. No one ever told me that. And I look at like my niece and my nephews and the areas of their life that they don't feel like they're any good at. And I'm just like, I really try to be like, okay, you might not be good at this now, but if you take the steps, put in the work, put in the time, you can get better. But it's really tough when, parents or teachers or coaches don't also help with that.
It's interesting because it sounds like the byproduct of engaging in these sort of physical challenges or growth processes, right, were mental skills, right, and tools that then allowed you to, enhance well-being and performance and potential, like you talked about, right? And coming into the conversation, I guess, and part of me expected some of that, but also that you might be interested, and maybe you are, in the, let's call it, more direct impact on well-being and success when one is physically fit, right? And what that means for resistance and HIIT and cardio and all those sorts of things. I definitely hear the mental skills piece. Is what I just covered also a big part of it? Is it really kind of a both and, not an either or for you?
Absolutely. Yeah, it's definitely both. And I mean, the other piece of it is personally, like my teenage years, I know a lot of people have rough teenage years, but not having a physical outlet, really, I look back and it really affected me in a negative way. When I started to get more physically fit, there's so much research around this now, how physical fitness like helps us think better, our memory is better, our mood is improved, we have better perspective on life, we can handle life stressors better, on and on and on and on. We didn't really know any of that back then. Have either of you heard of the book Spark by the author John Rady?
I don't know Spark.
Oh, it's so good. It's old now, but this was like a crazy book for the time. I think it's from 2009. It talks all about the benefits of exercise for our brains. And that was just completely new then.
Really, you say the author one more time?
John Rady.
Yeah, 2008. 2008 it was first published.
Yeah. Really great book. I had never stumbled upon any of that. We didn't really know much of the benefit of exercise on the brain then, or our mood or anything. Of course, I think the last few years with the COVID-19 pandemic, a lot of this research there's been even more, because we all felt the effects of sitting inside, not moving, not getting any outdoor exercise or fresh air during COVID. And all of a sudden it was like, okay, well, this is obvious. We need to move to feel better, think better. So yeah, that is the other piece of it. Yes, there are these mental skills, psychological skills that we can build through kind of testing ourselves through fitness. But then there's the whole thing about just how we feel and think, and the more physiological stuff that we get from exercising.
So there's right. So it sounds like two buckets, right? Mental fitness, physical fitness. They complement each other. It's a bi-directional relationship, right? So somebody that works with you directly, experiences the 12-minute athlete, right? Follows you on social, whatever it might be. What are like the subcomponents? Like, how do we know that we are mentally and or physically fit? Or maybe scoreboard's not the right question. Maybe it should be a process question instead of an outcome question. Right. But what should people be focusing on, or what would they experience through your sort of work and programming to enhance both mental and physical fitness?
That's a great question. So I will tell you, it's not, there's no easy answer. The biggest thing I will say is it requires a lot of self-awareness. So much of this is more individual than we like to think. A lot of people just want to be like, okay, give me an 8-week program that will help me feel happier. Well, that's just going to be different for everyone, and we're all going to need different things. And it's your lifestyle and what you're interested in and all sorts of things. Where I would start, though, is first of all, developing an awareness of how you feel emotionally, mentally, how clear you're thinking, all of that kind of stuff before and after exercise, with and without exercise. And this requires self-reflection, not easy stuff. So what I would normally have people do is have some sort of journal and really try to figure out how they feel. Like, literally do a workout and then go sit down afterwards and tell me how their mood is before, or how their mood was before and how their mood was after. And whether they have brain fog during the day, all of these kind of things that we have to become more aware of, that honestly, most people, that's a really tough step. It's like, how do I actually feel? It's the same with recognizing how food and nutrition affects our bodies. A lot of people just kind of go through their days or just kind of mindlessly eating. They're not paying attention to how they feel, either physically or mentally, from what they eat. And developing this awareness is tough. It takes some time, but it's very, very beneficial. So those would be a couple kind of metrics. And as far as the well-being goes, I never recommend, what I don't recommend is people go to the gym and just do what they're told to do or what they think they need to do. That's not necessarily, it may make you feel better to do that, but where I find the most benefits is to find some sort of fitness related activity that actually like brings you joy. And again, this requires self-reflection. One of the things that I like to get people to do is kind of think back to the activities that they loved to do as a kid. So almost all of us, even if we're like adults that go to an office and aren't moving much during the day now, most of us have activities from when we're a kid that just like we think back and it's like the most exciting thing. It was so much fun. The playground was so much fun. Trampoline, gymnastics, martial arts, whatever it was. You can see that immediately, like people's faces light up, they get lighter, less heavier. And bringing in that kind of feeling, that to me is what I've seen brings the most kind of benefits, most like well-being benefits to people's adult lives.
Okay, so maybe we could start to categorize here. I'd love to like throw something out to you. Correct me if you think it's overly simplistic or wrong. It sounds like I'm thinking of Kelly McGonigal, The Joy of Movement.
Yeah.
Right. So like distinguishing between movement and exercise. Right now, exercise generally is movement. Is movement exercise? Well, at levels, right? So it sounds like there maybe is a difference between what gets me moving, which generally is good for me, but I also enjoy doing that in and of itself is good. And guess what? I'm more likely to want to do it more because it's fun, right? That might be different than here are the very precise beneficial impacts of consistent HIIT training, consistent resistance training, and your 90 minutes of zone 2 cardio. Right.
Yeah.
Are those good buckets, useful buckets to think about movement and exercise in?
Those are great buckets. Yeah. I would say the way I like to start with the first one though, because a lot of people will start with the second and they're like, okay, well, I should go for a run, and they hate running. And so it's all, they're dreading the workout. They're having to make decisions about whether they're doing that workout every day, which is terrible. I think we'll probably address that later.
Sure.
And they're getting the mental benefits and all the good stuff from it, but it's not something they look forward to. They want it to be over. So if we can get people to start with the first one, find something that they find joy in. What happens eventually, it takes some time and some figuring out, but like what can happen with the second bucket is that second bucket then can support the first bucket. And then it's like, we all brush our teeth, right? Like we all know, maybe we don't like love doing it. It's not the most exciting thing in the world, but like it benefits our health. We know it's preventative. We know all sorts of good things about it. My dad was a dentist, so I know way too much about teeth. But it's the same with these kind of fitness activities. And you can, with the second bucket that you were talking about. So think about it like this. Like, let's say, do either of you have sports or activities that you enjoy that fit in that first bucket?
Yeah.
Tell me.
So it's interesting. Yeah, John, you go ahead, John, and then I'll answer.
Well, it's not really a specific sport. It's usually HIIT or like cross training.
Okay.
But it's a major part of my life. Daily. It's like it's one of my daily rules. To try and do some high intensity exercise every day of some kind.
That's fantastic.
Yeah. I'd like to channel it into a specific sport actually, but I can't.
You're going to talk about this. This is what
I'm too much of a dilettante when it comes to sports. I just try this one, try that one, 3 months at a time, if that, maybe 2 weeks at a time. But yeah, just high intensity training.
Yeah, cool. What about you, Nick?
Yeah, mine's like very utilitarian at this point, right? I was a pretty much lifelong decent soccer player and could have played collegiately. And then I coached for 15 years. And so I was always on the field, touching the ball, playing with players, getting into scrimmages, those sorts of things. And the byproduct of that was sort of those core three, the resistance, the HIIT, the cardio, because they would support the joyful activity, right? And the joyful activity isn't really there anymore, and nor do I have as the interest I once did. So subsequently, like I don't feel as much, I think, fuel or motivation to do the stuff that now I'm only doing it because I know it's good for me. And unfortunately, that's not always enough.
Right. No, it's so true. I mean, we do, of course, have different times in our lives that we're going to feel more excited about something, and it'll shift with, obligations and priorities and age or whatever it is. So that's very natural. But as you said, like when you had something, soccer, those other things supported that. And for most people, it becomes just a much easier way to stay motivated. And what I like to do with people is like, sometimes people aren't always overly strategic about how to structure all this, which I mean, they shouldn't be, because, very few people have the knowledge to do this. So of course it can be overwhelming, but really what you can do is create the most kind of efficient possible routine that covers those bases. So you just know you're getting them done. You're not spending or wasting extra time on them. And then you can put your time into the activities that you really love. So for example, we haven't talked about my current sport is jujitsu. So I spend,
we want to get into that.
I spend like up to hours and hours every day kind of nerding out on jujitsu techniques. And, we do some, like, there's exercise in it for sure. Like, it can be very challenging, but it's mostly my like fun and passion activity. It's a hobby. It's so fun for me. But all the other stuff that I do, the sprints, the resistance training, all that, I do it on the side, and it's not my main passion right now, but I do it to support that. And I make sure it's efficient, so I'm not kind of wasting extra time or energy on that. And that's how I structure it. And that's typically how I recommend people structure it.
Awesome. So there's stacks of practical advice in here. I want to go rewind a bit. One of the first things. This is great. This is the first podcast episode where we've dug in anywhere near this deep the physical exercise.
So
and, I think we really should pick your brains thoroughly about this. So the journaling piece is the first thing I want to ask a bit more about, because I haven't heard about this before, or even, to be honest, thought about this before. I mean, you see people journaling in the gym, but I assume, perhaps I assume wrongly, because maybe they've taken Krista Stryker's training and they're actually doing journaling. But I assume they're just writing down like their progress. Like, okay, I've progressed to this weight on the dumbbells for this exercise. I'm doing this many more reps or this many more sets or whatever compared to yesterday. I mean, Tim Ferriss keeps a very extremely detailed log of all his workouts, and he has them for years, right? And I assume, I don't know if he journals, maybe he does, but I assume people are doing this kind of thing, keeping a record of what they did and maybe their nutrition, how much they slept, stuff. But it sounds like you're recommending something much more personal. Like, describe what should a person, or what do you recommend a person journal about before and after you? I think you describe sort of some somatic aspects, how you feel, but it's not just that. It sounds emotional, maybe what you're excited about.
Yeah. My answer to everything is going to be, it depends. It depends on your goals. What are you trying to get out of it? Is your goal to create a consistent exercise routine? That's a very different goal than I want to be a high-level jiu-jitsu athlete. They're just going to be super different. Your focus will be different. With let's say your goal is the first one. You really want to just like make sure you're consistent, and your goal is longevity, health span, any of this kind of stuff. What I would recommend then is, because likely with that goal, you're struggling with some motivation. And so you need to kind of find that, dig dig deep to find that why that can keep you going on days when you're not just feeling like you want to go to the gym or to the park or whatever. And so that's when, our emotional health is very important to us, with our mental health, all of this stuff. And so starting to understand how our mental health is related to our physical health can be really, really helpful with this kind of stuff. I've seen people who never exercised start to connect it, and then from that connection actually start to be consistent with exercise for the first time in their lives. And it's really cool. So again, with that, it doesn't have to be overly complicated. We have 1,000 things or more on our to-do lists every day, and meditation, all these, everything that people are always doing or trying to do in their days. So I don't want to say, okay, you need to add a half an hour to journal about your exercise and mental health, but just jotting down a few notes of like, okay, I went into this workout today and I really didn't want to be there. I felt my mind was kind of foggy and I just felt kind of grumpy, like just a couple of sentences, bullet points, whatever. And then later on after the workout, it doesn't have to be immediately after, it could be a couple hours or, even that night, just tune in and pay attention to if there was a shift. 99% of the time there will be. Almost everyone goes into a workout not feeling great, and they come out of it and they say they feel better. Starting to pay attention to that can then, down the road, when you really, really don't want to work out and you're kind of wondering, why am I torturing myself? Why am I doing this? Like looking back at those notes that you took, that like, oh my gosh, every single time I felt like this and I made it to the workout, I felt better afterward. It can just make all the difference.
Hi friends, Nick here with just a brief interlude to share with you an update on one of our newest partnerships with the Anti-Fragile Academy. Throughout John and I's conversations with many, if not most, of our guests, one thing has been made really clear. In order for people to flourish, thrive, experience the good life, they need to develop the capacity to not only navigate and endure, but ideally grow from the bad, grow from unpleasant experiences. That's why we're thrilled to be partnering with our newest sponsor, the Anti-Fragile Academy, an organization that I co-founded with Dr. Adam Wright, Director of Mental Performance for the Washington Nationals. At the Anti-Fragile Academy, we work with adolescent athletes, executives, and educators to help them understand some of the science, not just of optimal performance, but of well-being and anti-fragility. The ability not only to endure and bounce back from unpleasantness, but to actually come back stronger, to grow from it. Between Adam and I, we've worked with Fortune 100 companies, Inc. 300 executives, Division I programs, and elite professional athletes and Olympians from all over the world. To find out more about how you can leverage anti-fragility training, check out our website at theantifragileacademy.com. I hear like pre and post, right? So start with motivation, start with joy, start with awareness, right? What do I enjoy doing? And oh, by the way, what do I also, after which activities do I feel better?
Yeah.
To a certain extent, right?
Yeah.
So then and I think you've tapped into this a little bit already, but like, let's just mention it or name it more explicitly, which is consistency. And so again, I think that joy piece comes up, right? That I feel better piece comes up. But, we've also talked about having it oriented towards play. But in, I think some of our cases, a lot of times it's actually oriented towards goals. And I'm wondering if you think that's a really important piece of it, not just the intrinsic joy of it, but do you think an extrinsic sort of a sense of achievement, reward satisfaction is an important part, or can be really useful as a tool in keeping people on that path they want to be on?
I think that it can be so useful. I also recognize that we are all built a little bit differently. I am extremely like goal oriented. I need to have very, very specific goals that I'm working toward, or I get a little lost. And I feel a little lost. I feel like I'm like just not, I just need something like concrete to go toward. A lot of people are like that, maybe not as extreme as I am. So the kind of goals that well, I guess the ways that types of motivation, I guess. So goals, so those would be, I don't know, I like to say like performance goals, or skill building goals. So this would be, either you're in the gym, you're trying to get a new PR on a lift you're doing, or you're trying to learn a skill like a handstand, something I got really obsessed with for a long time.
Yep.
Learn a new sport, things like those. Those are all goals, and you can, break them down much more than that, of course, and you should. And then the other type of thing the other type of goal is like, I call them adventure goals. So not everyone cares about like how much they're lifting in the gym. They're kind of just doing it for maintenance or long-term health. But like the idea of climbing some mountain somewhere is really exciting. And that can be a really good concrete type of thing to work towards. Same with, I'm not a runner. I don't really like understand long distance running, but having something like a half marathon or ultra marathon, if you like that kind of thing, somehow someone does. David Goggins loves it. But if you have that on the calendar, that's coming up. Like you are going to work harder because of it. And it's so much more motivating. So this is all different than having just appearance related goals. I think those are I know that they are the least motivating goals. I know there's some research on this too, just kind of having weight loss or vague appearance related goals. They're just not that motivating, especially in the moment, because that causes we have to think of our future selves, and that can be really hard to do when there's a bunch of homemade cookies sitting in front of us.
Mm-hmm.
Sure.
Having these more kind of performance oriented goals or learning goals are just so much more motivating. I've never, for everyone, I've never seen this fail.
Yeah. Well, let's explore that a little further. I think this is really useful advice, how the types of things that motivate a person can help them gain more consistency with their fitness.
100%.
So I take it your point is that intrinsic motivation is more powerful driver.
I do think that.
Yeah. So one example then would be setting yourself challenges, but the challenge would have to be coming from some desire inside, from intrinsic, right? So it's not that you're getting a trophy for winning this race. It's more you want to prove to yourself that you can, say, overcome some limiting belief. Like I used to think I couldn't do this. Like maybe in your case, Krista, when you were before you got into fitness, your early 20s, maybe it came from a place of intrinsic motivation for you. Is there a personal element to this as well? Is that what really got you into fitness?
Yes. I mean, like I mentioned earlier, I didn't believe I could do anything physical. I come from an athletic family. My dad is 73, 74. I forget at this point. He plays pickleball now. Everyone does, but he skis constantly. He's mountain bikes. He paddle boards. I don't know, does all sorts of things. And it's so cool. And I just seriously thought I didn't have an athletic gene in my body. Like I had no belief that I could do anything athletically. And when I got kind of just a taste of being able to do this kind of thing and get better, it just, I don't know, it opened up my whole world. And it has the entire time, every single challenge I've taken on, it's always to prove to myself that I can. I mean, external recognition is cool and all. Like, I've won some jujitsu competitions, and that's awesome. Like, it's really fun to win. I never got any medals. I have all these medals sitting on my kitchen counter right now, and that's just really cool. But like, the cooler thing is that I did this thing that I never thought I'd be able to do. And it's just the best feeling.
So, kind of advice for any listeners out there who are preparing for their first Ironman, or their first marathon, or their first ultra, whatever it might be, would be, if they really want to maintain consistency in their preparation for this and get the most out of it, would be to search for the reasons they want to do it.
Yeah,
that's proving something to themselves rather than coming first in the race as an extrinsic achievement, as it were. Coming first in the race would be a great goal to have, as long as you prove to yourself you're capable of doing this thing, rather than you want the trophy at the end.
Yeah, absolutely. And that's where the, like, really getting clear on your personal goals is really important, because a lot of people will do something like set out to run a marathon, which is a cool goal. Like, don't get me wrong. But some of those people hate running. And like, every single run is torture. And sometimes I talk to them, like, and bring up other options. You know, there's endless amount of sports and activities in the world right now. And we are really lucky to live in a time when we can take lessons, we can take adult classes in almost anything and everything. And so some people get more excited about the idea of, I don't know, skateboarding and doing some crazy jump, than like rock climbing, whatever it is, learning to surf and picking a specific wave you want to surf on, that kind of thing, versus doing this thing they've been told is cool to do, like that they should feel great about running a marathon. You can feel great about it, but you could also pick something that like lights you up more. That's what I want.
And come back full circle, and I'll then be quiet because I'm asking too many. This is just fascinating. I take it this is where the journaling also plays a really important role, right? For the person trying to identify what intrinsically motivates.
And this is all like basic goal setting that we all learn in psychology, but like, what I find is not everyone applies it to all areas of life. And it's pretty easy once you learn this stuff to apply this to fitness as well. And then it just all becomes so much more fun.
So, stepping aside from motivation, consistency, the joy piece, there's that other bucket, right? Which is just the stuff we know is really good for our vitality, our health, our longevity, our mental health as well. Can you break down, I mean, we've mentioned, I think, 3 of them already, but kind of break down what you think those buckets are and just tell the audience a little bit, just what does this mean? What does this look like? How can you kind of do it in a really simple way? You know, how much should you be getting each week? Those sorts of things, real practical.
Yeah. Okay. So 3 buckets. So first bucket, super important, is resistance training. But that can mean anything. So people think that it means going to the gym and lifting weights. It doesn't have to. It can mean body weight training for the most part. You know, that's what I did. I did calisthenics, kind of gymnastics training for years and years before I really did anything with weights. And you know, people think it's hard to get strong or fit that way, but look at gymnasts. Gymnasts mostly use their own body weight, and they're some of the strongest athletes in the world. So what I would recommend with resistance training is, first of all, everyone needs to do some form of resistance training at least twice a week. If you're doing a full body workout, you can do it twice a week. If you want to do it more often, rest is important. People who I train at Gold's Gym in Venice Beach, California. So there's a lot of bodybuilders there. And bodybuilders want to work all sorts of specific little muscles to look a certain way. And so they're doing what is called splits, which means, they might do an upper body day and a lower body day. All of that is fine. If that's the way you like to train, if you want to do it more often, that's totally cool. If you want to just kind of like get it done and not have to think about it, doing 2 or 3 full body days where you're kind of working every muscle group is really efficient to do. And again, body weight, dumbbells, kettlebells,
sure.
anything, like find the thing that at least gives you a little joy. It doesn't all have to be fun, but personally, I prefer kettlebells over barbells. I just enjoy it more, and it kind of works with my style of training more. So I do that. But some people love Olympic lifting, and that's awesome. Like, kind of follow your curiosities, experiment a little bit, see what feels cool. If anything makes you feel extra strong, like, kind of follow that path, like figure out what you like there. But at least 2 or 3 times a week, 45 minutes to an hour. It's pretty simple. Get it done.
Cool. Resistance.
Okay.
Cool.
Bucket 2 is some sort of interval training. I love this stuff. My whole kind of 12-minute athlete brand was built on this: short, tough workouts. So again, this can mean so many things. It can mean sprints. I love sprinting. Once or twice a week, I'll go to the park or the track, just do like 10 sprints, all out, 80 to 90%. And of course there's warm up and stuff in there, but then you're done. It's really hard, but it's really short. Same kind of thing can be done. You do bike sprints, you can swim, you could do burpees, you could do all sorts of plyometrics, which means jumping exercises, which is just, again, it's tough and it's short. If it's more than a 20-minute workout, you're no longer doing an interval workout. We can only sprint or do hard things for a really short amount of time. So keep that in mind when you're going to a 60-minute workout class that says it's HIIT. It's not going to be the same thing. It's not bad. It's just not the same thing. Sure. So couple times a week, do some sort of hard but short type of exercise. So that's bucket 2.
Really elevating the heart rate, right? Quickly, and then not necessarily giving it a ton of time to recover.
Exactly. Yeah. And again, there's so many options. You can run hill sprints, all sorts of things. So I guess what I want to make clear is within these buckets, there's ways to make them a little more enjoyable depending on what you enjoy. So resistance training for some people is not the most fun thing in the world, but if they find that they like, I don't know, body weight stuff over whatever else it is, like, follow that and kind of get more into that versus doing what you think you need to do. So that's for sure with the last bucket. So the kind of zone 2 cardio, where you're moving, your heart rate is up, but you're kind of at a pace where you could have a conversation, is kind of the way that we like to put it. Most people think of running. To be honest, not everyone should be running. Not everyone has very good form running. Most of us have not been taught to run. We just run and, maybe our knees hurt, or people get injured a lot running, actually. So running is one for sure. If you enjoy running, cool. But there's so many other things. There's biking, there's swimming, there's just kind of general sports that you could go play. Soccer is an amazing way to run, but also have fun while you're doing it. all sorts of things like that. So the zone 2 cardio can really, that bucket can be like full of options, and it can be way more fun than, especially, I mean, when I was first starting out in fitness, I really thought I had to run or I had to be on the elliptical machine for like 45 minutes. And I just dreaded those workouts so much. So if you really, really find yourself dreading a workout, like find something else. There are other things to do. But at
Great.
least
Good.
a few
Yeah, it's
hours.
good synopsis. Yeah. Great.
Yeah,
Great
yeah.
synopsis. Thank you.
So Krista, since you said that 20 minutes is kind of a limit for a high intensity workout, is that why you have a 12, your whole brand is the 12 minutes? I think is 12 minutes the optimal amount for high intensity training?
I mean, I like the number 12, but it really is between like 10 and 15 minutes. Much past that, you're really not going to be able to work at as hard of a pace. So that's just something to keep in mind.
Is there a minimum? Is 10 the threshold?
There's actually a 4-minute workout called a Tabata workout. That is brutal.
Right. Okay.
So is that where you go a certain amount and then you increase it each time, like 10 seconds, 20 seconds, 30 seconds, 40 seconds?
No, that's more like a ladder. That's cool though. I love.
Oh, right. Okay.
Really fun.
And it's me trying to sound like I know what I'm talking about, right? So what is a Tabata workout?
Tabata workout is a 4-minute workout, and it's 20 seconds of work and 10 seconds off. But the 20 seconds of work are just as much as you can give. It is all out, and they are brutal.
Wow. Okay. And
a lot of research around that.
Yeah, at the start of this, we talked about the growing research on how physical exercise is really good for mental well-being. So, and I'll also just mention for the audience here some citations, because I've actually been writing on this recently. So there's studies that show it's good for the physical exercise can positively impact academic performance, memory, cognition, alertness, and attention. But my question is, do you focus on high intensity training because that's particularly good for learning, cognition, mental health, more so than low intensity exercise, for example?
Yeah, I mean, I'll be honest, like I focus on it because I enjoy it more.
Right. Okay.
For me, it's much more fun than the lower intensity exercise. I like the kind of adrenaline rush that I get from running sprints or doing hard things like jiu-jitsu. It's definitely good for us, but so is the other. So it's hard. I don't know if you've seen if the research right now shows that one is better for our kind of mental performance than the other. I know there's just been so much more research on all of this in the last few years, last decade or two. I'm not sure where it's at right now.
I'm not either. I think that would depend on how you define mental performance, right? How you quantify, probably different zones, different amounts of times. I think it would vary. Like, just look at the mindset stuff and the field of like dieting and nutrition and how variable that is from person to person, right? So my somewhat educated hypothesis would be, that's highly variable. Totally.
Yeah. And I mean, it's different too. Like, outdoor exercise can have added benefits and all sorts of stuff. So,
Yep.
And this is something where you tune into your own body and your own feelings and see. But that would be interesting to know where the research is at right now.
So that the tune in piece, like kind of coming full circle here. And as we start to wrap, we'll take you to our signature question, our flourishing question. And we're going to try to pin you down and ask you to tell our audience if there's one thing. Right. One thing that'll help them feel better, perform better, flourish. Right. And it comes to, kind of let's call it more on the physical fitness side. You do a lot of different things, but we spent a lot of time talking about the physical piece. Is it just what you've already said, which is start with awareness? How do you feel before? How do you feel after? Would you take them a different direction for a first step?
For a first step? No, that would be my first step for sure. It's just hard to explain how much that awareness building will help with everything. It helps in knowing what things make you feel a certain way, what things light you up, all sorts of things. And most of us are not aware, so it takes some time to build. And we might even not have the language at first, but stick with it and it gets better.
Yeah, sure. Cool. Okay.
Love that.
Well, Krista, it's been a real pleasure. I mean, this has been a great conversation, very informative. Like John said, we've been meaning to try to get down this path. It's such an important part of well-being and flourishing. We just haven't done it yet. So we're glad to do it now. Tell people where they can find you, follow you, engage with you, just interact with you more.
Yeah, you can find me everywhere online. I'm either Krista Stryker or 12-Minute Athlete is kind of, it's very easily Googleable these days.
We'll put links in the notes as well for everybody, of course.
Yeah. And it's been really fun nerding out about this.
Yeah. Thank you. And it's an app, isn't it? 12-Minute Athlete's an app people can download.
Yes, it is.
Yep.
Thank you for bringing that up. Yes.
Yep.
There's an app, and there are really tough, but short, fun. I think they're fun workouts that will help support anything you're doing in life. And they're really great for travel as well. So
yeah, like the 4-minute Tabata, like that's going to be a game changer. Can't wait to try that.
Yeah, try it and let me know how it is. It's hard. It's amazing how.
I mean, it's hard, but it's 4 minutes.
Exactly. I mean, all this stuff, like that's the thing. It's hard, but like that's building up that mental toughness and realizing we can do hard things, and especially when it's short.
Cool.
It's awesome.
Great. Well, Krista, thanks again for taking the time and sharing your expertise. We really appreciate it.
Thanks so much for having me.
Thank you.
Thanks so much for listening to Flourish FM. We hope you enjoyed the content. Please be sure to leave us a 5-star review and hit that subscribe button wherever you listen to your podcast and on all major social media platforms.
And if you visit our website, flourishfmpodcast.com, you can sign up to our newsletter. We send out a weekly newsletter. First newsletter of every month, we share a long form blog, and every newsletter, every week, we share highlights from our previous episodes. Please hit subscribe on our website.